Good evening and welcome to the Strand. I'm Christina Foxley, the Director of Events, and I'm so pleased to welcome Demos Senior Fellow Nomi Prins to the Strand tonight. Nomi, a former Managing Director at Goldman Sachs turned journalist, is here tonight to discuss her new book, It Takes a Pillage, Behind the Bailouts, Bonuses, and Backroom Deals from Washington to Wall Street. I'm going to let Lou Daly, Demos Senior Fellow and Director of the Fellows Program, introduce you to Nomi Prins more formally in a moment. Lou is a renowned writer on religion, political development, and economic thought. His work has appeared in many publications, including Dissent Commonwealth, the Boston Review, Tikkun, and Newsweek.com. I'd like to thank the nonpartisan public policy organization Demos for co-hosting tonight's event, and they have a table in the back with a lot of information and an email sign-up sheet if you're interested in learning more about them. Following her presentation, Ms. Prins will take your question. We'll be wandering around with a wireless microphone, so please wait for that before you speak. She'll then sign copies of her book for you, which you can purchase downstairs on your way out of the store. Please join me in welcoming Demos Senior Fellows Nomi Prins and Lou Daly to the Strand.
Well, thank you all for coming. I'm really pleased to see such a big crowd. And thank you to the Strand for hosting this event and for partnering with us. One of the things I'm usually asked to do at such events is to tell you a little bit about Demos. I'm not going to do too much of that because we have a lot to talk about tonight, but I did want to mention that Demos is in fact something of a neighbor to the Strand. We're just a few blocks up on Fifth Avenue. And I also wanted to encourage you to go to our website, www.demos.org. If you want to learn more about Nomi's work and learn more about the other work we're doing in areas such as democracy reform, economic opportunity, and strengthening the public sector. It really gives me great pleasure to introduce Nomi Prins to you tonight. Nomi is one of the stars, truly the best and the brightest in our Fellows program, where she is a Demos Senior Fellow. I thought that just by way of introducing the subject matter, I would present a very oversimplified sketch of the sort of the sequence of events of what led us to this point and what led us to needing such an important book. So step one, Wall Street collapses. By December 2008, it's declared the era that defined Wall Street is finally officially over. Less than 1 year ago, it was declared over. Step two, record foreclosures, skyrocketing unemployment, record bankruptcies, growing poverty, growing inequality. All of that notwithstanding, the government puts most of its financial muscle, proportionately, I think you could say all of its financial muscle, all of its technical powers behind Wall Street, behind the bankers, not the rest of us. Step three, bonuses are back. Profits, financial profits are back. The former bigger than they were in 2007 before the bailout. The latter, I think, in some cases, bigger than ever. Step four, most of the rest of the country continues on a steep decline, a steep economic decline from which many people, many communities may never fully recover or recover at all. So it makes you wonder, what just happened? It makes you ask, what kind of system is this? I mean, really, what kind of system is this? And no one is better qualified to answer these questions than Nomi Prins, because before becoming a journalist and a senior fellow at Demos, Nomi had a career on Wall Street. She was managing director at Goldman Sachs. Before that, she ran international analytics at Bear Stearns in London. So she knows whereof and what of she speaks tonight. Now, before It Takes a Pillage, which is going to be the focus tonight, Nomi was the author. She published a book appropriately titled Other People's Money, another book on Wall Street money making, and even more appropriately subtitled The Corporate Mugging of America. Nomi is all over the media. If you turn on the TV any given day, you'll probably find Nomi there commenting about Wall Street. So she's appeared domestically on CNN, on CNBC, on MSNBC, ABC News, C-SPAN, Democracy Now!, Fox Business News, the list goes on. She's appeared frequently internationally on BBC World and BBC Radio. In her articles, she's also a very prolific journalist and commentator on these issues, besides writing important books. The New York Times, Fortune magazine, Mother Jones, which is a place Nomi frequently appears, Newsday, The Guardian, The Nation, again, the list goes on. And all of this in a matter of, 7 years since you left Wall Street. Pretty amazing. So from meltdown to bailout to business as usual to the rest of us left holding the bag. What happened? Why did it happen? And what can we do about it? Let's find out. Please welcome Nomi Prins.
Thank you, Lou, for that amazing introduction. Thank you all for turning out tonight. I'd like to also thank the Strand for hosting this event. I love the store. I don't live in New York anymore, but I think independent bookstores and just the feel of what happens here and what's transpired here is really pretty amazing. So I feel quite honored to be here doing the first book event in a store for It Takes a Pillage. So thank you, the Strand. Lou talked a bit about Demos. I just want to also say that they have been absolutely amazing. When I quit Wall Street, it was in 2002, and that was around the time, if you remember, that Enron was imploding and WorldCom was imploding and everything was about corporate scandal, and we were basically attaining the largest corporate bankruptcies, and that was followed by a recession and the market collapsing, and everything really on the back of a lot of products and derivatives and practices that have since reemerged, just in a different form. And a lot of that new form with subprime and with all the things that we now don't necessarily all understand but know as toxic assets that were built on top of a small amount of loans to create a large pyramid of just stuff that ultimately collapsed the financial system and has really taken a tremendous toll and drag on the rest of the economy, has been building up since. And that's one of the things I'm going to talk about in the book. But the history is really that I met Demos during a scandal. I've been with them since that, and they have really done tremendous work and been tremendously supportive. David Callahan is also here, who was the original leader of the Senior Fellows Program, of the Fellows Program, and also one of the founders of Demos, and had a lot to do with me writing in general. And so I'm glad that he's come out as well. I don't get a lot of chances to really read from my books because often it's on panels or you're on little sound bites on TV and you don't really get a chance to actually read your words. So I want to do a little bit of that because we're in a bookstore. And sort of take it from there, and then hopefully we'll have some time at the end, maybe 20 minutes or so, for some questions and answers. So again, thank you so much for coming out, and I'm just going to read you a little bit from a couple places in the book and sort of break to talk about a little more of the background behind it. So the introduction to the book is titled, "The More Wall Street Changes, the More It Stays the Same." If the thought of the government spending trillions of dollars on Wall Street screw-ups pisses you off, you're not crazy. Can't you think of a zillion better uses for the ridiculous sums of money that have been dumped into the laps of financial firms whose execs made more in a minute than you do in a year? That's if you're employed. I added that. To support the system that they trashed, you're not alone. You are living in the most costly and reckless period of American history. You have every right to understand how the quasi-legal extortion happened and who was behind it. But it doesn't stop there. You also deserve to know how to ensure this kind of pillaging stops and never happens again. You can and must demand a complete overhaul of the banking industry's status quo. Our country wasn't founded so that we, the people, could indefinitely support them, the banks. Welcome to what I call the